This is a global solution. We exist because water is expensive to ship. To give consumers optionality, we can offer up to 10 different products. There's two different ways you can make money from it. Profiting about $1 per turn.
All right. So I'm so excited for our guest today and to learn even more and share with you all about Hydro Perfect Pour. Today we have with us Patrick Kelley, the industry segment manager over Laundromats. So Patrick, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's so excited to be here. How are you guys doing today?
We are good. And you're even in our neck of the woods here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's funny. We're live here about 20 minutes away from each other. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. If you're listening on audio, we're not in the studio together, and we probably will be in the future with Patrick, but things are a little crazy right now. We're recording this shortly before the
Wash Dry Fold 23 in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville. And things are a little crazy for us and a little crazy for Patrick. I know he was on a red eye last night from San Francisco, but that's okay. We're going to make this happen. So the first thing I want to jump into is why are we doing this episode? What is Hydro and Perfect Pour? And we'll get there in just a second. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of funny to me that you all are local. I didn't know who you were and what you did, meaning the company. Obviously didn't know you personally. And you live just a few miles from one of our stores, in fact, from probably all of our stores. But it's kind of a funny story. So, Patrick, do you want to start off by telling people how we met? Because I think that's a little bit hilarious. I'm a little bit ashamed now that I know you so well, and I know you're a really good dude. But hey, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think it keeps it fun. So, yeah. Like you said, I'm literally 6 minutes away from your Amelia Superstore. Mm-hmm. Drove by it a couple times when I was starting the role with Hydro, and thought, I don't really know what a great laundromat looks like, but I need to get a hold of whoever owns that one. Quickly found out who the Laundromat Millionaire was within our industry, starting in October 22 with Hydro to grow the laundromat business. And then quickly learned that it wasn't a fit for Dave. And the question was, why? And can I get a book? Can we meet in person for the book? And
you did try that. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'll just mail it to
you. Yeah. And I was like, well, we could probably do it over lunch and maybe, save you some shipping costs or something like that. Mm-hmm. But no, I think, we were pretty quiet from, I guess it was about December 22. And then things finally took off at Excellence in May of this year.
So you reached out to Dave on LinkedIn initially, yep. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he was just kind of blowing you off like, it's another sales guy. And, he wants to do direct injection. Yeah, we're not into that. What?
Yep. And then that's kind of the funny, that's why I wanted to kind of share that story, because the funny thing about it is, you guys probably aren't surprised by this, but a lot of people reach out to us wanting us to sell their products, peddle their products, mm-hmm. advertise in the show, those type of things. And we're pretty picky. Our reputation, credibility, and we're here to support and serve the independent laundromat owner, mm-hmm. not these large corporations. Now, when we can find partnerships and we do both together, that's when it gets really fun, which is what we're doing. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the interesting thing about this for me was that, he kept coming at me for direct injection. And I knew of a laundromat in Chicago that had direct injection. And the only thing I knew of the situation was that the laundromat, it was take it or leave it. Like mm-hmm. it was, and this is just one store.
You could not use your own soap.
Correct. You couldn't bring your own soap.
You picked from what they would inject.
Whatever they offered through their machines. Like literally what I knew of this store, I visited the store and they didn't even have soap lids or trays mm-hmm. on the machines. You literally, you got what you got and you would shut up and sit down basically. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that's just what it was, right? And obviously that's not what it is. So can you tell us a little bit more about kind of how you got into Hydro and what your role is now and where the product came from and what the product is? Because spoiler alert, guys, it's not your stereotypical direct injection for OPL type of environments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll hit those questions kind of separately in order. Grew up here in Claremont County, Ohio, right in your backyard. Knew of Hydro, didn't know that we had advanced solutions like we do today. Traditional chemical injection, dilution, and dispensing technologies. When I was interviewing for the role, I was told that we exist because water is expensive to ship. So our chemical customers, our chemical company customers, dilute their chemistry on site for whatever application that looks like. Jan sand, facility cleaning, laundry, which is why we're here, animal health, car wash. We play in all those different markets. And when we got to talking about our adjacency strategy for laundromat, for car wash, for horticulture, that's when I became excited. I followed a former leader from previous company to join him here. We have a lot of fun over the last year in launching this laundromat strategy. We have some aggressive goals around this strategy because it's so core to what our business has been doing in OPL and commercial laundry, like you said. We've been dosing to we'll call them professional commercial laundries for over 30 years, and with this same technology specifically for the last 15 years. Hydro is a portfolio company of Pump Solutions Group, which rolls up to Dover, publicly traded DOV out of Chicago. And we have that backing for this adjacency strategy, acquired business out of Spain and reshored that to manufacture here in Cincinnati, Ohio, within the last couple of years. And it's all growth from here.
So you didn't just invent this the other day and say, let's put it in a laundromat. Is that what you're telling me?
That is correct. Yeah.
Dover is a big company, right? I mean, that's a big conglomerate, bigger than any in our industry. Not even close.
Very, very large company. And it's unique that Hydro feels as small as it does, just a few minutes away from both of our homes. So we have this technology. We have a great group of, core individuals here in Cincinnati to launch this, knowing that we have that backing as we continue to try to grow this. And the brains of the technology, we had it for tunnel washers and commercial washers, and thought, how can we scrunch the dosage amounts down to make a powerful solution for laundromat? And that's what we did. And that's what we're continuing to do with more installations and sites planned.
Hey everyone, so we have an exciting announcement for you that we didn't even know about when we were recording this episode. So we're recording it after the fact and dropping it into the episode. The folks at Perfect Pour, after we recorded the episode, came back to us and they were so grateful that we gave them an opportunity to speak on the podcast. They agreed to give you all 5% off with one condition. So Carla, do you want to tell them what that is?
Yes. So if you set up a virtual call with Patrick before October 12th, just a 20-minute call with Patrick, then you get that 5% off if you decide to purchase Hydro Perfect Pour.
So I think that's pretty cool because not only get the opportunity to, if you're not interested, this doesn't matter, right? But if you are interested, the cool thing is they're not only willing to give you a one-on-one virtual call and answer all your questions about your store and the product and blah, 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 but they're going to give you a 5% discount on the product. And let me tell you, 5% is a pretty big number for what we paid for Perfect Pour.
It's a good amount of savings.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just wanted to drop this in the episode, and make sure you listen to the end. If you think Perfect Pour is a good fit, don't wait. Reach out to Patrick. At the end of the episode, we actually give his email address, and we also have his contact information in the episode. So check it out and save yourself some money. There's nothing better than free. Ever heard that before? Well, it's not true. You know what your laundromat customers like even better than free? It's fast. That's right, they want to save time more than they want to save money in most cases. They want to get in and out of your laundromat as fast as possible, and they'll pay more for that experience. We're proof of that here in Cincinnati. That's why we added HM Company drain troughs into our newest store in Cincinnati. While they may never know why, your customers will love that your washers all drain better and faster than with old school drain pipes. As if that wasn't enough, every HM drain trough is made in the USA, so they ship in only a few weeks, and everyone is custom made just for you and your project. If you want to provide your customers with a top of the industry experience in your store, then contact your distributor to order your HM Company drain trough today, or visit draintroughs.com.
Yes, we are getting this installed in our store, but tell us about the product. So I know our initial hesitancy was we thought if you got direct injection, then that was it. Your customers came in, they couldn't use their own soap. It directly injected. You maybe had a few choices. They couldn't choose the amount of soap, the type of soap. So tell us everything we were wrong about. and what this actually does.
And by we, she means me.
Yeah, I don't know if wrong is the right word. Spoiler alert here, though. We are getting ready to roll out some frequently asked questions that hit these first 5 to 7 key questions, right, that will be on our website. So as we integrate marketing efforts together, these laundromat owners can understand what the opportunity is. So as a laundromat owner, we'll just use a 40 pocket store, 40 machine store as an example. Hydro can deliver chemistry to every single one of your washers via one single line to the back of each washer. And through that line, we can offer up to 10 different products to the back of each washer. And by integrating with the washer signals, we queue our doses up in the back room. So these panels are stored centrally. No longer do you need to take up room in your bulkhead that's already small. You don't need anyone crawling around, swapping out drums of detergent in the bulkhead, or changing squeeze tubes that degrade over time. This is a system that you set and really let it ride. We have some quarterly maintenance recommendations, a checklist of 3 to 4 things, but the customers who are using this product would tell you it's not maintenance free. Nothing is ever maintenance free, as we know as consumers, but it does not have the maintenance challenges that other pumping technologies would have.
So let me ask you a question, and I know probably just enough this to be dangerous, and I know you're not an expert on other products, but so you're referring to, I don't know if you all even have these, but other companies I know have, I'm going to call it a plain Jane or a simple version of what you're describing. And we want to be really clear, that's not what this is. This is I said this the other day at a meeting, you seem to love it. I said, this is the Cadillac of like direct injection. I mean, you talk about like all the bells and whistles, every option under the sun. What application do you want to play for this? So you're referring to a more plain Jane version of some of these types of dosing systems, but they have to sit at the physical washer. And you were literally describing, you have to climb inside of the bulkhead and change out a 15-gallon drum or whatever it is type of thing every so often. And you have to do it for each machine or each bulkhead. And I mean, there are those products and systems out there. And just so we're clear, that is not what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and those products have their place, right? Mm-hmm. We manufacture that technology. We have great market share with that technology as well. Typically, when laundromat owners come to us and say, this isn't a fit for our store, it's because they've seen what's called the peristaltic technology. So it's a wheel and a squeeze tube that sits along this wheel that drives the chemistry. The danger with that is you can only have a couple products and those squeeze tubes degrade over time. So the amount of chemistry that you promise the customer through the vend price or your marketing has fluctuation over time if those squeeze tubes are not managed and maintained. And in most cases, they're not. And you have a customer paying for a load with soap, maybe not getting that soap that they're expecting.
So they can't. So that sounds like a maintenance issue or a maintenance headache if you did it correctly from that perspective. But also, you can only do a couple products. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're limited to a couple products, and with that technology, you're limited to set it up by the machines in the bulkhead. So you can't centrally store that and pump the soap solutions at the distance that we are with the Cadillac Perfect Pour solution.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify, like for our system, all of those tubs of soap and bleach and fabric softener, like all those choices, and they have the choice of, the regular detergent, the all free, like all the different options. Those are all in our back room. And then this is run through these tubes, one tube to each machine. And all of the different products, if they select, they want this detergent, they want this fabric softener, and they want this and this bleach, whatever, that one tube carries all of that to the machine. And like between it dispensing, it flushes out. So you don't have to worry about any like carryover of one product, or between washes. Like if I'm allergic to that detergent and someone used that detergent in the machine before me, like just to clarify, right?
Yeah, you're spot on. And typically that question, when it's asked by others, is out of fear. Like, so you're telling me I can run all these different chemicals through one single tube without blowing my store up? And the answer is yes, because we do it on the scale of tunnel washers and commercial laundry. And we have to keep that tube clean. And we do that a couple different methods, but primarily we deliver via compressed air. So we are truly injecting this into whatever wash bath that is calling for it, we'll say. But all that needs to be clean because we don't need to be creating any science experiments in any laundromats, that's for sure.
So I know one of the things, I noticed a couple things when we did the tour of the factory. One of them was the tubes. You called the other version a squeeze tube, which I haven't physically seen those, but I'm familiar with what they are. And
to me, that sounds like a tube of toothpaste.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of that concept, right?
Okay.
But these tubes are substantial, right? Can you describe for me, or for the audience really, because I've seen them, what these tubes look like? Because they are, well, substantial.
Yeah, we roll out, we buy these in, depending on what distances we need to run to each washer. We'd like to get a couple 100-foot roll of this. And that's depending on washer quantity and distances, but we want a single continuous run from our pump in the back room, all the way to your washers. And so the tubing itself, it's a clear tubing. 3/8 or 1/2 inch, depending on the application. And it's run through the ceiling or over ground via conduit, and then straight into the back of the machine.
It's right into the bulkhead.
So if we have a bulkhead, and obviously we do, if we have a bulkhead that has 24 washers on it, you're going to run 24 of those, which we're literally installing it right now, by the way, as we speak. Yeah. Which is kind of fun. And
if you're on the YouTube version, we'll overlay some pictures.
Yeah, we'll show you a few pictures. We're just getting started. But so you're going to run one of those for each. I mean, 24 3/8 inch tubes. And I know in our facility, if you saw some of the painting happening in one of our empty car wash bays, it's a 12-inch PVC pipe that we're painting black because our ceiling is black. And so they're going to run this 12-inch PVC up into the ceiling and over and across and drop it down into the middle of the bulkhead. And then these 24 3/8 inch tubes will disperse from there. But each one of them is what they refer to as a home run. So it's a direct access from the back of the machine directly into the injection system itself.
And if we had planned for this earlier, we could have run it through the floor.
And I told Patrick this. Everybody knows this. We just built a $2 million laundromat and we ran everything underground, and I didn't know this exists. This is even before LinkedIn. So even if I wasn't a jerk, I wouldn't have known about it. But yeah. So anyway, we'll go there for a different time. If you decide to do something like this and you're building a store as we speak, you might want to consider putting that in, even if it's just for hey, if I ever do this, I'm going to put this 12-inch PVC in. But anyway, I digress. So in our case, we have to go overhead, and we have a black open ceiling, which is fine. I actually think it's going to turn out pretty sharp. But we'll drop it down in there, and we're going to paint it, or they already have painted the conduit black. So tell us a little bit. Let's get a little bit nerdy with this. So you talked about the injection. How does the injection system, and I probably am butchering the lingo, how does the injection system in the back communicate with my washer?
No, when to squirt it in and how much?
That's actually, as we think about intellectual property, those are some of the words we use, right, when we try to file, just joking there. But we take, the driver of this is the washer machine, right? And your store, we take a look at the wash programs and understand the different elements of that wash cycle and at what minute, we want to introduce detergent, towards the end when we want to introduce fabric softener, and then a color safe bleach should a consumer choose that, or a regular bleach for that matter. So we start by breaking apart the wash program, and like we've done with your store, Dave, understanding what options we want to offer to the customer. We really don't care what type of detergent or what type of softener or bleach hits at those times. We just need to know that they do hit at those times. So we have a wire that is next to that soap tubing that serves as, it's literally conduit to the back house where the brains of the perfect pour system are. So we set up a network within your store with a Wi-Fi router, and we like to joke that there's a little man or woman constantly flying around your store looking for a washer that's raising their hand saying, I need something. Now, it's going to ask for one of those 3 different types of products: detergent, fabric softener, or bleach. And when it does queue, that automatically triggers our system that is hanging on your wall right above the products to say, okay, draw some chemistry up. We get a reading, which washer is calling for it, what size machine is it, that automatically converts into our system to where we measure the dose. It's calibrated from the inlet, sent down to the outlet, opens the valve for compressed air, and it's shot literally across your laundromat within a few seconds. The customer sees the bubbles explode in the machine, and they understand what they paid for.
The cool thing about this, guys, because we asked a million questions, of course, before deciding to purchase this product. And one of the cool things about it I found very interesting, we were talking about the idea that if we're going to drop all these tubes down from the ceiling and into the bulkhead, well, what if we didn't put them in conduit and we just left them there and they could see the product being delivered? And I forget who it was, somebody on your team. And by the way, this team at Hydro, every one of these people are rock stars. Like, this is a really fun, amazing, like incredible character, integrity, communication, wicked smart. Like, I mean, I don't think we even phase them at all with our, plethora of questions. But I said, well, that would be pretty cool. And I think somebody else had mentioned it too. If you could see it come down, they were like,
said even doing like a clear PVC,
and
even like running like neon light down it too or something.
And then I think it was one of the engineers or something, I forget. And he was like, oh, no, it happens so fast you'll never see it. And so customers won't believe you. Like, they won't think you're actually getting any product. We actually need to hide it because that's how quick it happens. So I found that interesting because, like, if you think about it, even for like an 80-pound machine, it's not a ton of detergent, right? If you just think of like a half cap or whatever type thing.
The amount of detergent they're supposed to use, not what they actually use.
That's a good point. There's a difference there. Good point, Carla.
That's a good point for sure. But it's a fairly small amount of the correct amount, but it's the perfect pour from what I hear. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, so it's injecting this into the tubes. I'm trying to envision this or create a vision for people. So it's injecting it into these tubes, and then it's not flushing it 100 feet, as you said, across. Our store is a bigger store, of course, but there's a pretty large compressor we actually just had shipped the other day to our store, and it's pretty impressive, this thing. But it's actually injecting the liquid, let's say, into the hose, and then I'm going to use the term blasting it with air behind it. And then after that, it flushes it to rinse it out so that you don't get that residual bleach for the next person that Carla was talking about. I just butchered that, but that's my understanding of how this works. Is there anything more nerdy or scientific? Anything more impressive than that?
No, certainly not more impressive than that. That's what's important for laundromat owners and listeners to understand, that we maintain the integrity of that chemistry by pushing it with air. And we do it fast enough for the consumer, for them not to walk around and say, where's the attendant? I didn't get what I paid for. So we do that so fast with air. So it's the speed to the consumer, number one. Number two, we minimize the amount of water that's in that rinse because we don't want to dilute the chemistry and add more water to the wash bath.
Gotcha.
Would you like to make more money from your laundromat? Would you like those machines you're paying for to have more turns per day? Do you offer wash, dry, fold services or pick up and delivery laundry services? If not, would you like to? Whether you do or not, we have an amazing opportunity for you in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, you've probably heard about it, guys, but it's our wash, dry, fold, pick up and delivery workshop. And to answer your first question, yes, it is for drop-off laundry, wash, dry, fold, and pick up and delivery. So if you're doing any of those things, this workshop is going to help you tremendously. But the truth is, we were pretty so-so laundromat owners and so-so successful until we launched drop-off laundry and pick up and delivery. And being able to, what I call, optimize your laundromat to generate more profit and more revenue out of the existing facility, that's the key to taking your life from good to great, financially speaking, with laundromats. And that's what made us Laundromat Millionaires.
You don't have to just listen to us. Listen to what some of our past attendees have to say about our Wash, Dry, Fold, Pick Up and Delivery workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio.
It was the best workshop I've attended in over 25 years. And what you guys have put together is nothing short of phenomenal. I think that you guys have put together both strategic and tactical systems that will make an individual who wants to own the laundromat profitable within months, not years.
Was the workshop worth the investment? Without a doubt, it was definitely worth the investment. So not only did we have two very packed days with Dave and Carla and their team, both in the classroom and touring the facilities. But we also came away with this extensive 100-page handbook. And then after the workshop was completed, I received a bunch of electronic performers and templates that we've been able to use since the workshop. Every day since the workshop, I found myself referring back to either those electronic tools or the handbook that I received. So,
was it worth the investment? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I cannot say that enough. This was such a blessing, and I am so very grateful that Dave and Carla put this together and are sharing their knowledge and experience with others to have this to grow their business and to become more successful. Thank you, guys.
So are you interested? Go to laundromatmillionaire.com to learn more and see where you can register.
So I want to get into the really good stuff, which is why we would want this in our store. Mm-hmm. So obviously it gives our customers options where they don't have to bring in their own soap, but how can we make money from it?
Yeah. So main way to make money from it, there's two different ways you can make money from it. Self-serve, and then we'll call it back of the house, which is wash, dry, fold, and pickup and delivery operations. Both of which the key starting point is buying soaps and chemicals at distribution cost, at bulk cost, compared to the single serve bottles that many of the listeners are buying today. So you have an effective cost point at that point. And then we see our install base today that's offering optionality for the self-serve. We achieve about 50% adoption for the self-serve. And by doing so with the cost positioning in the beginning, you're profiting about $1 per turn for any consumer who selects soap. So obviously that adoption percentage is the big lever that we want to pull, and I'm sure we'll spend some time talking about how we drive adoption. That's number one for self-serve. Number two, which is what we're really interested in this store here in Cincinnati, right in our backyard, is how do we quantify what the impact is to your overnight team and your attendants doing laundry during the day. And we've taken some early on studies overnight, stopwatch and clipboard, understanding what's going on with the soap carts with your current process. And I think we've already seen that we can add some value. And as soon as we get this thing installed, we're going to be able to quantify that and share with others of what the true bottom line impact is.
So if any listeners don't know, what Patrick is referring to is, so we have a big pickup and delivery business, and we run a third shift processing crew. So basically, our largest location in Amelia, it shuts down and basically becomes a factory. And part of the way we can be so profitable in pickup and delivery is due to the speed and the efficiencies of our processors. So by having the direct injection system, they'll be able to be more efficient. They're not taking the time to scoop the product and all that kind of stuff. But then there's also the cost savings by us buying it in bulk. We'll hopefully be able to get some of those costs down for the product as well. So kind of twofold, the savings in cost and then also the savings in efficiency. So we're really excited about that. And as I understand it, right, Patrick, we're your first laundromat to test out the effects on the pickup and delivery side of it, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The first time that together we really looked at this as a manufacturing process, because that's what it is, right? The people we look up to in commercial laundry, as we're trying to bring that down to the laundromat industry, this is what they're doing, right? They're not pouring in chemistry by hand. So as we think about the trends within the laundromat industry, this is where we're going. And to be able to be in here so early in each other's backyards to get some true data around the impact, it's really exciting for the both of us.
Yeah, so I want to go a little bit further with what Carla said a minute ago and just our thought process. Now, we weren't necessarily an easy sale, right? I think we were an easy sale. Story of my life. So we weren't an easy sale, and what I mean by that I think I told you pretty quickly, it was pretty obvious to me I could save money, and I didn't even know I could make money on self-serve until we got further down the line. We figured out that we believe, and we will see if we quantify this, right? But we believe believe we're going to have an ROI of about 2 years. Now, we have a full service laundry center. We have a substantial self-service business. So we're going to generate revenue on that end, and we're going to save on the backside. I broke this down into kind of 4 silos because this is how my brain works. The first one is we're going to sell the product. So we're going to sell the product to the customers, the self-serve customers, at a markup. So we're going to make money we're not making right now. And if other people are experiencing about a 50% adoption, that's going to be substantial for us. Just every turn in every store, or every machine in your store every day, 365 days a year, if you were to make an extra $1, and by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, you said $1 on detergent, but I would assume that other operators across the country are charging, let's say $1 for detergent, but $2 if you want Downy, and $3 or $2.50 or whatever if you want bleach. Yeah.
Close. We should consider it about $1 in profit for the wash cycle in its entirety. So cumulative.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. So that was one thing for me, is I can generate revenue by offering I call them cycle modifiers, kind of like extra wash, extra rinse, right? Type of thing. Right. It's just another thing that I can upsell. And by the way, if you're telling me everybody's charging $1, I promise you I won't be charging $1. My cycle modifiers are $3, where people are still charging $0.25. I don't understand that, but anyway, we look at that a little bit
just to interject here, I remember when we were visiting your facility, they said too, with the people you've already had using this, they're not even seeing a decrease in the over-the-counter sales of soap.
Good
like
point.
The vending sales. Like we have like a big machine that sells it, but that blew my mind.
Yeah,
like I figured you would lose the people that would buy it over the counter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Perfect Pour is an investment, right? It's not something you're going to make a split decision on. And as we were looking at the financial model for that particular customer, we actually predicted that vending sales would fall off over time as adoption grew. What we saw was the opposite. Adoption grew, vended sales stayed the same or grew, which leads us to believe that we understood a different customer and pulled in that customer who was bringing their own detergents and removed that from their hands, essentially.
Yeah. So I'm going to back to my silos for a second here. So we're going to sell it to customers we already have. Now, I actually don't even have it quantified into our ROI, but I believe, and this may take a little while, but I actually believe, because I'm all about what I call market differentiators. I'm all about being different than everyone up the road, not 1 or 2 things, but 30 things, so that there's a million different reasons of why someone would use our store. So I don't even have it quantified into our ROI, but I actually believe we're going to drive customers into our store because we're increasing our value proposition. Okay. I believe that will happen. I think it makes all the sense in the world. It's a best case scenario of what we call optionality. You mentioned the word a minute ago. And the point is, people can come in and not bring soap, not bring detergent, all these things with them, not have to
Don't have to worry about it leaking in your car.
Don't have to worry about pouring it and measuring it, all these different things. And so there's a factor there. But I believe that there's a certain segment of our market right now that maybe, and we definitely have market share, but they're going to realize that we have this next level of service other people don't have. And I'm banking on the fact that that alone is going to cause them to come to our store where other things may not have. So tough to quantify that, but I'll just throw that as number 5. But so we have that we're gonna sell the product to the consumer, self-serve. The second silo is, you mentioned it, we're gonna buy the product at wholesale. So we're buying the product for production purposes right now, but we're buying it through Sam's and Target and Walmart and places like that. You know, we pretty much have that honed in. Trust me, there's not a place on planet Earth you can buy Tide powder cheaper than Sam's Club that we can find. And if there is, it's temporary, and we usually buy a pallet. But anyway, so there's no doubt. I mean, it's indisputable that we can buy it much cheaper direct from, P&G or Tide or whatever type of thing, right? So that's silo number 2. Silo number 3 is the efficiency of production. And if you're not doing production like we are, then it may be minuscule or non-existent at all. But in our case, we do thousands of pounds per night, typically, between wash, dry, fold, meaning drop off, and pick up and delivery, overnight production. We know we're going to make our processes more efficient. And not to get into it too much in this episode, but if any of you have been to our workshops and things like that or done our coaching, you know that their efficiency is directly correlated to our profit margins. And the more efficient that our processors are, the more profit we make and the more bonus they make. So we both win. They go in one direction and we go in the same direction. we're more profitable as they make more money. And that may blow your mind a little, but trust me, it really works that way.
We're actually talking about it at the Wash Dry Fold next
yes,
week.
we are. Actually, that's correct. So if you're one of the 300 going to the Wash Dry Fold event in Nashville, that's what our keynote speech is actually all about. So that's silo number 3 is we're going to make more money and more profit for us and our production processors because we're going to make them faster, right? Mm-hmm. So that's silo number 3. And then the last one is we're going to reduce waste. So we already have pretty extreme for manually pouring cups and things like that. We're pretty honed in on measurements and even oversight and management and training and things like that. We have little what we call cheat cards that are attached to each cart. You saw all that, Patrick, when you came to our facility overnight. But between between those 4 things, this is an investment for sure. This is a phenomenal product, but let's just call a spade a spade. It's not cheap, right? You're not going to get this thing for $5,000, right? But we see about a 2-year ROI across those 4 silos. Now, we could end up being 28 months. We could end up being 18 months. We'll find out for sure, but I'm pretty confident we're somewhere in there. So one question I have before we move on to other things, what's the lifespan of this thing? Like what if you buy this, what kind of warranty does it have? And what kind of lifespan can you expect out of this?
Yeah, lifespan's a great question. That's why it was important for me to mention the history of Hydro's relationship with this technology. We've been distributing the product for 15 years. Those units are still out in the field globally today and operational. There are a few wearable components that will wear years into the process of owning the technology. But as far as longevity, not a concern by any measure. Was important for me to understand that before I started to sell it to these, laundromat owners, right? And then from a maintenance perspective, there's a few things that we recommend are done quarterly, primarily around ensuring that we maintain air and water pressure, and that the system is operating effectively in the back room. It's not something you walk into every day and think, oh my gosh, I got to wrench this and dial it in, or that there's wearable components. It's very much dialed in from a maintenance perspective. And we also have a cloud solution behind that to where you can monitor the effectivity of that too.
Gotcha. So if anyone anywhere, and I will say in the country, but I actually know this product is international too, because I just sent you a lead the other day with a friend of ours, and he's in Australia. And I understand you're already distributing it over there too. But this is, if anyone wants this anywhere, and obviously they'll do all kind of analysis like we did, and they'll determine if there's an ROI there and it's a good investment and all those things. But anyone can buy this. Like, they don't have to wait till their distributor can install it. Is that what, like, you obviously we're close. Are you saying you'll fly a team to California and install this in ABC Laundromat, next week if they want it? Is that literally what we're saying?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. This is a global solution. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do everything we can to make it work for every laundromat owner that's out there, right? Whether they're in Cincinnati, Ohio, that we're lucky to have each other here, or Sydney, Australia, we're going to find a solution for that laundromat owner to be more profitable or to achieve whatever goal that they want as a laundromat owner. So the answer is yes, always yes first. Second question is how and when, right?
Mm-hmm. But you'll make it happen. Okay.
So if a laundromat owner reaches out to you and says, I think I would like Hydro Perfect Pour in my laundromat, what is your next step? Do you go and assess their location to see if it's even worthwhile for them, if there's, the right foundation for it, the room for it, all that kind of stuff?
Or let me jump in and interject, maybe before they even contact you, since we have an audience of 7,000 people here today. How do they know? Like, this is not for everybody. I think we would all three agree on this screen, knowing what we know. This is not for every laundromat in the country. What is your professional opinion of if Joe laundromat owner comes to you and says, how do I know this? You talked about turns per day, I think, 4 to 5 turns per day.
How do they know that they might be a good fit for this before you come and tell them?
Yeah, really need to look down your middle aisle or your mirror and ask yourself, when's the last time I retooled? Obviously, this experience for the consumer is most effective on a touchscreen. Can we do it on a traditional style machine? Yes, we can, but that significantly reduces optionality here is our goal for consumers. And it makes it mandatory if you have a button machine that we have to inject chemicals in every cycle. and we don't have the optionality either unless we go with a secondary interface that sits on top of the machine. So that's step one is, do I have an interface that a customer can understand, right? If no, then we need to have a serious conversation about, what's required to make that happen so the consumer can understand it. So that's step one. And maybe we'll pause there before we go to step two. Any questions on step one?
Yeah, you can see it on my face. So I have a question, and I think it's more, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the people listening to this. So did you just say if you don't have touchscreen, it's probably a bad idea?
I did. And there's a way that we can do it with buttons, but it's not going to be the Cadillac experience that's expected.
So I think it's pretty safe to say most people listening don't have touchscreens just because they're newer. The adoption is definitely, snowballed over the last 5 years since 2019 for sure. What does that look like if they don't have touchscreen? Let's just spend a couple minutes. What does that look like?
How not Cadillac is it? Are we talking like a Honda or is this like a Pinto?
We're probably talking like a nice Toyota, perhaps.
Okay.
With a Toyota.
So you have the buttons, right? And then what we do is we take the signals in the same way, but because we don't have choice with the touchscreen, every load that's started by those buttons, it's binary. It's yes or no. But when we use those buttons, it has to be yes, because there's not a cycle modifier like we know that we have with touchscreen. So not only is it in every load, you only have the one option of soap. You get a detergent, a softener, and a color safe bleach.
Okay.
Injected in throughout the different timestamps of the wash program. But with limited buttons on the machine, we're not going to add 30 different buttons for the different combinations, right? So the experience just isn't as good. Not to say that it cannot work, but want to be transparent in the owner up front that, hey, these are the trade-offs depending on what your consumer interface looks like. Now let's see where we want to take that, basically.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So let's talk real quickly, because obviously everybody knows, I think we have Hips Touch in our store. And so with the touch screen, and I think this probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this kind of applies to all the touch screens. They all kind of, for the most part, work in the same way. I'm sure that makes all the manufacturers cringe. But anyway,
you kind of dropped the bomb there.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I know. Hey, not the first time I've made them mad. It's all good. I love you guys. So with a touch screen, let's go to the other side of the equation and the Cadillac experience. So what does that look like?
Yeah, it looks very similar to where they're at today. You're selecting your desired program, perhaps temperature if your touchscreen offers that. Any adders that you would like to choose or you are choosing today as the consumer, that process is normal. And then you get to the end, you're already aware through in-store marketing that soap's available. At the end, you choose the detergent for that portion of the wash cycle, which detergent you would like. Next screen is perhaps your options of fabric softener. And then at the end, maybe a traditional bleach or a color safe or oxygenated bleach that's not going to damage your colored clothes.
So one of the things I thought was cool about this is you can give them, going back to I know we're all over the place, going back to the 10 products that we can offer. It's like, let's say hypothetically 3 of those are Tide, Gain, and All Free and Clear or whatever. Okay. So you have 3 detergents. So first option, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they choose from those 3 options, they choose Tide, okay? And then it says, do you want Tide and Downy or Tide and Downy Free and Clear? And I'm probably butchering the name of that, but I know that's what it is. Or Tide, Downy Free and Clear, and Color Safe Bleach. So those are all separate modifiers. Can you charge separately for those? Or I know this was part of the conversation a minute ago. I want to make sure I understood that correctly too, and we're clear with the audience.
Yeah, going to be dependent on the OEM screen interface, right? The goal is, yes, as we've seen it with the Hips Touch machines, those machines are becoming salespeople within the store, right?
That's right.
And showing what's possible. So yeah, as we proceed down development with the Hitch machines here and finish that for your store, the goal is we have an extra adder at each point, and a consumer is basically writing their receipt as they go through the process.
Mm-hmm. So it's very similar to walk you through it in a touch perspective, and this has nothing to do with Hitch, but with a touch perspective, the customer is going to choose, they want hot or cold water, delicate or bedding, whatever those type of cycles. Then it's going to say, would you like extra wash? And yes or no. Would you like extra ozone rinse, which is what ours says on our screen because we have Santa Wash, and it's going to choose that option. And for each of those cycle modifiers, there's obviously an upcharge for us, like on an 80-pound machine, it's $3. And you're saying the next phase, and this requires a little bit of cooperation from the design of the interface and the programming from the manufacturers. So we're working with like Alliance right now, and they're by the way amazing, and they're being incredibly cooperative and helping us in that journey. And once we kind of travel that journey for maybe our store, I think it'll roll out for the rest of them pretty quickly, hopefully. But the idea is the next phase is, would you like to purchase detergent? Yes, I want. Would you like Tide or Downy or Gain or whatever? And do you want bleach or no bleach? And the idea is in the long term, and we're a little bit down the road here, that we'll be able to actually charge for each of those individually. But you're saying right now we're just charging yes, or do you want these products, yes or no? And then you get what you get for that price.
Yeah, and we can still increase the VIN price for it too. As we proceed with development on the screen, I can see a day where soap is automatically recommended as a category, and then you just select which one you want, or you opt out and maybe bump your VIN price down a little bit, just depending on how you want to play that sale within your laundromat. I think as the interface grows, those machines become better and better salespeople.
Yep. And that's the beauty as an industry. That's the beauty of this whole thing with touch screens. When people just talk about, I'm not going to pay extra money for just a fancy touch screen. You talked about it earlier, the sales tool. And it's a sales tool of virtually unlimited options, in the future, because once we can do X, Y, and Z, there's no reason we can't do A, B, C. And so am I understanding correctly that the limitations that someone might have right now in being able to do some of these things are not limitations of your product? Perfect Pour can do all these things right now. It's just, are the manufacturers of these screens able to communicate at that level of sophistication? And if they're not, manufacturers, pay attention. Because Dave Men's opinion, I'm one guy, but I'm telling you, this is the future of our industry. We're talking about it right here and right now. I've done my homework. This ain't going away. This ain't a gimmick. It's the real deal. So now please answer my question. I'm sorry.
No, thank you for your testimony there.
There was a question in there?
Yeah, there was.
There was, yeah. So
you know the question.
That's correct. Know the question. Our technology, the gun's loaded. We're ready to go in any application. And we've been doing that globally for the last 15 to 20 years, right? As we scrunched this technology down and took it to a market that has never had access to the technology, all the manufacturers didn't immediately say, "Thanks for coming, Perfect Pour. What do I need? What do I need to change about my machines?" Right? And a little bit of a joke, but we have great relationships with the major OEMs in our industry who have soap injection capabilities. Now, their development roadmaps, as you see in the industry, look like different. They're at different points for what they have available to the market. But I think everyone recognizes, to your point, Dave, this isn't going away. And the better that we can position those machines within our stores to give consumers optionality, pairing with the macro trends, we could spend all day talking about the macro trends of choice. That's where we believe we're going as an industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to be clear. I didn't know about this specifically a few years ago, obviously, but when we talk about elevating the industry, it's all inclusive. I'm just going to speak for me. It's all inclusive. So these are, I say all the time, you could be perfect today. And if you're not connected to the industry, going to conferences, reading blogs, listening to podcasts, things like that, the industry is evolving and changing. And that's what I refer to when I say you're being left behind. Sometimes it's just the future of the industry that, frankly, 6-8 months ago, I didn't even know about this. And now I do. But you have to put yourself out there in the industry and you have to educate yourself. And by the way, distributors, manufacturers, We're all on the same team here. I say that all the time too. So while Perfect Pour, for example, does X, Y, and Z, it does require some cooperation on the other end. And I get excited because what's next? I don't know. I mean, I know we're here to talk about Perfect Pour, and that's awesome. I can't wait to see what this looks like in the future. So I think some people will maybe look at this as some level of not necessary or not worth the investment or whatever. And depending on what's required and what equipment you have and whether you've retooled and what your budget is and what your value proposition is of your industry, we're certainly, none of the three of us are saying this is for everyone and not everyone today.
Well, and it might not be necessary right now, but you might find down the road as competitors are getting this, it becomes necessary to compete in your market too.
And I said it earlier, so I'll say it again, manufacturers. The fact of the matter is some of you are further along in this journey than others. I'm not sure that you really want laundromat owners making buying decisions. Do you? Is maybe a question. Do you want them making buying decisions based on, I want Perfect Pour because I know what it is. I did my homework. I have a full service laundry center like Dave. That would change my life through the 4 or 5 different silos Dave talked about. I'm retooling a store. I maybe had XY machine equipment. They do their homework, maybe talk to me, maybe talk to Patrick, whatever, before they buy their equipment and find out that one of them is further along on this, should I say evolutionary journey? I don't know, technology, whatever it is. I don't think we want to play that game as an industry. So I'll just leave it there.
I agree with you. I don't think we do either, but believe it or not, those conversations are happening.
Good.
The great operators, they're not satisfied with today, right? So they're thinking about, what does retool look like? What does that location over across town? How could I think about this location over there?
Yeah. So I just want to publicly, we're a private platform and I don't work for Alliance or anything, but I just want to publicly say thanks to Hipsch and Alliance because they've been kind of a part of this journey since I reached out to them and was like, hey, X, Y, and Z limitation or whatever type of thing. And they have just been over backwards.
Help us make this work.
They're a global leader in the industry. That's no secret. They were the first to roll out touch screens, et cetera, et cetera. They've always been a leader in this industry and they have been phenomenal. So I can't speak for other manufacturers. That's not the equipment that I use. I know some of them are ahead of others. So part of the reason we wanted to roll this out is, I started sharing on social media a few pictures and stuff, and all of a sudden people start blowing up my phone with, what about this? And what does it cost? And what are the questions? And da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's more buzz here than I thought. And I knew there would be some buzz. And then it was like, okay, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? And so I thought it would be good as just kind of an introductory to talk about why we decided to install it, what our anticipated, which is all it is right now, ROI is going to be on this product. You're telling me the lifespan is beyond 15 years is what I'm hearing. Maybe we don't know what that is. Maybe it's 30 with some parts or something like that the product could be, but 15 pretty conservatively sounds good to me. If I can get an ROI and 2 for a 15-year product, I'm all about that.
I actually want to go back. So kind of where this veered off was in talking about how do people know if they're a good fit for Hydro Perfect Pour? And that's what started into the touch screens definitely give you more optionality. Not that you can't do it with a non-touch screen, but you're going to lose some of the optionality. So other than the type of machine people have, what else would make them a good or not a good candidate for Hydro Perfect Pour?
Yeah, I think the other question that comes up after an interface is your store attended or not? Because this is brand new to the laundromat industry, there's immediately questions by everyone, but most importantly by the consumer. How does it work and can I trust it? If you don't have resources on site to help them through that journey, you're going to have a hard time getting them to adopt the technology just because it is so new. As we talk about adoption, we have thought through a couple different levers we can pull with in-store adoption. Number one being in-store education. That looks like a couple different things. English and Spanish videos, walking consumers through and putting them in the shoes of a customer who uses Perfect Pour. Perfect Paula versus Messy Mike, who's maybe searching for his detergent.
Paula doesn't need to bring detergent. Why? Because she washes with Perfect Pour. Using Perfect Pour is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Load your clothes into the machine. Select your preferred wash cycle. watch Perfect Pour auto-dispense the perfect amount of soap. No guess, no mess, no stress. Meanwhile, Mike is making messes from bad pouring guesses. Too much detergent can damage his clothes. Not enough detergent may not clean his clothes. With Perfect Pour, Paula gets perfectly fresh and clean clothes every time. If you're ready to leave your detergent behind, start using Perfect Pour today.
Things, obviously, we're learning that pickup and delivery and wash, dry, fold, if those look like goals or new profit centers for your business, take a serious look at this technology. And then I would ask laundromat owners, how competitive do you want to be in your market? Do you want to have the same options of machines, payment systems, and other technologies within your store? Or do you want to come in and get super competitive and, let's be honest, be the only store in your market today that can offer this technology? You could see the stores that are available today with Perfect Pour. I would tell you there's less than 10. So as investors and you operators are thinking about this, great opportunity to be first and put your stake in the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being first is a big deal. I think I would throw out there when Carla was asking the question of, who's this for, who's this not for? I think the way that I would look at it, just understanding the industry and coaching a lot of people, is I think I would look at it through the lens of like volume. Like, you could be a self-serve only laundromat, but if you're one of these self-serve only laundromats doing $50K a week self-serve in Chicago, for example, like, the ROI is the ROI, right? Now, if you're in Amelia, Ohio, on the suburbs of Cincinnati type of environment, well, we're not going to do anywhere near those kind of self-serve numbers. But the reason the ROI is so good for us is because we do a lot of drop-off. We do a lot of pickup and delivery. There's the time savings, and we're buying products at quote-unquote retail for the most part. We're buying them from Sam's, and I know they call that wholesale, but we all know it's not. We all know it's not. That's a game. That's a game. But anyway, so that's why it makes sense for us. And I think, the way I would look at that is I'm just speaking as a business owner, but I think the way I would look at it is like, what's a reasonable ROI for the investment? And by the way, we're not going to go too far down the path today of the cost because it varies so much. But if you have 20 machines versus 30 machines, 40 machines, 50 machines, 100 machines, meaning washers, by the way, the cost is directly proportionate to the number of washers you use. Any thoughts or comments there?
No, that's spot on. So each one of our panels, I don't know if we've hit on this, can do 10 products to 10 machines at a time. So it is linear. 40 machines, if we use that example, you have 4 panels hanging. Your cost is fixed up front, and then it just becomes how well is your store performing based on, the area that you're in.
So I guess what I was going to say is I would look at it through the lens of like the years of ROI. What's the investment going to cost? And for a smaller store, it's not as big, not as high as for a bigger store, of course. But hopefully if you have a bigger store, you're doing more volume. So the ROI is going to be the ROI. I think I would look at it through the lens of, if I can reasonably expect this product to last 15 years, even if Dave gets a 2-year ROI, but I get a 4-year ROI,
maybe it's
am I going to be a fool
to
not do it just because I don't get the ROI that Dave gets?
So you do help people figure out their ROI, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it has to be a win-win in the sales process. For someone just to drop this investment uninformed doesn't help either Hydro Perfect Pour or the owner. So to your point, Carla, having an understanding of the store today and how it's performing to build our financial models off of that is critical. And then it just becomes the investor's decision on what sort of payback they're comfortable with and what they need to achieve.
So this is a significant investment, whether small store or big store. Do you offer financing? Do financing companies like Eastern Funding or Alliance Financing, if you're retooling, can you roll this into there? And I don't know if you know the answer to some of those questions, not specific to the companies.
Yeah, I will say there's financing options available for the customers who would choose that. Not prepared to name the partners on this session, but there's definitely options available.
Well, I personally just want to end with, I mentioned it earlier, but the team at Hydro, I can be a little difficult at times, and I don't necessarily apologize for that because I'm, serving a greater goal in a lot of ways and a lot of the questions that I ask. And I mean, guys, I can't speak highly enough for Patrick as a human being and an individual. His character, integrity, his honesty, like I said, really balances that. Like, I have a job to do, but my job isn't to convince you to buy my product. My job is to make your business better. And I think my product can help you with that. And if we determine that it can't, I'm going to agree with you that you shouldn't buy the product. That's the kind of human being Patrick is. Mm-hmm. And I'll speak for the team because we've had, because we're so close, of course, we did a tour of the factory and met, people above Patrick and things like that. And I'm like, these are all like really good people, human beings. That matters to me. I know maybe some people, it's not as important. It matters to me. And especially it matters with the type of partnership that, we're going to be working more intimately and sharing like our data with you. And we've agreed to do that and stuff like that. And
so for our audience members, if they're interested in Hydro Perfect Pour or they have questions about Hydro Perfect Pour, what would you recommend? How can they reach out?
First off, I'm always available through the email that Dave will share. You can get my cell phone through that as well. Hydro's website, we have a Laundromat page on the website that explains the solution for Laundromat. We can get your email through that should you give us it in a form. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to be as active as possible in our Laundromat community there. So a couple different options to get a hold of me. I will be prompt in getting back to you.
So Patrick Kelley with an E at the end. And do you want to just share your email address now? I mean, I don't know if I'd share your cell phone number.
Kelley, Kelley, at is it PSG Dover?
Yeah, PSG Dover. So Pump Solution Group, PSG Dover, the parent company.com. Patrick.Kelley at PSGDOVER.com.
And you can also find that in the show notes, whether you're listening to the podcast or the YouTube, as well as the website to Hydro Perfect Pour.
Yep. Absolutely. And I know Patrick is all about networking and connecting with people in the industry. He's been gung-ho for a year and a half now, which is obviously how we connected at Excellence in Laundry, was how we actually talked face to face. And I was like, all right, you got me. Let's have lunch type of thing. So you can find him pretty much anywhere there's an event going on. He's everywhere right now. All right. Listen, for everyone back home, if you're going to be at the Wash Dry Fold 2023 for the CLA in Nashville, you're probably going to be listening to this episode the day or the morning of, because that's when it's coming out. But if you're not going to be there, hopefully we see you at a future event. And by the way, you know about our pickup and delivery workshop here in Cincinnati. We're almost sold out. We only got 4 spots
November
left.
November 9th and 10th,
November 9th and 10th. And if you're watching this in the future, because these podcasts live on forever and ever, we typically do 2 or 3 of our intimate workshops here in Cincinnati every year to teach you everything about our business model when it comes to launching, scaling, and optimizing pickup and delivery. And if you come to our workshop, now you get to see what Perfect Pour is all about. So, all right, listen, for Dave and Carla Menz here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and our friend Patrick Kelley in Cincinnati, Ohio, we will see you next time for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Take care, everyone.